Hey everybody, it's Romania Black. I can't believe we're on the last episode. Of Yona of the Dawn. The last episode, episode 24. How did we get here this quickly? I feel like this whole season, it feels like it's gone by so fast. I feel like we just started Yona like a month ago. And here we are. But no, it's been like half a year. If you can believe that, it's been like 6 months. What? And we're not done. We still have all the manga to get through. I'm so excited. I'm really glad that this is not the end. I'm glad that y'all talked me into very early on. Like as soon as I was maybe 2 or 3 episodes in, y'all were like, you need to read the manga. And I think by episode 3, I was like, oh, I need to read the manga. So I'm really excited. So even though this is the series finale, sadly for right now, it is not going to be the end of our Yona journey. As I'm recording this, I've read up to volume 6. And volume 6 covers right up to right before the pirate attack, right before the events of episodes 22. So that's exciting. So after this, I'm planning on reading volumes 7 and 8. And then next week, when we come back, I'm going to be reviewing volumes 1 through 8, which is going to be pretty short because as of volume 6, there's not really that much extra to talk about, except maybe mention some of the things that the mangaka has done in those volumes, like just some little extra things they've put in that'll be kind of fun just to talk about. And then during that same video, we'll talk about volumes 1 through 8 and then react to volume 9. And I'll be reading it alongside you all, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really, really excited to read Yona of the Dawn and just to talk about it and read the manga and just go from there. It's gonna be great. I'm pretty hyped up about it. So yeah, it'll probably be the actual manga reaction will be on a separate site like Streamable or Vidyard, something like that. Probably Vidyard only because Vidyard hosts bigger files. Streamable does not host bigger files for me, and I don't want bandwidth to be an issue. So it'll probably be on Vidyard, but I'll have my reaction overall and overall thoughts sandwiched, bookending it, and then there'll be a link to the actual reaction because of copyright, things like that. So want to be definitely safe about that as well. But I'm pretty excited to talk about the manga volumes and to read it with y'all. That's going to be a lot of fun. So yeah, pretty excited, but we still have to get through this episode. We still haven't met the Yellow Dragon. I'm amazed. I really thought that by like episode 20, we'd have met all 4. But no, going into this series, I really thought because in the first episode, they give us that tease of Yona with the 4 dragons about to like go Robin Hood style raiding on somebody. And then we've not cut back to that at all. And I don't think we're going to in this either. I don't think it's going to end on that note either because the Yellow Dragon's not with them. So it's such a tease. And it really is sad that this is, it shows on here that the last episode, it released on March 24th of 2015. So nearly to the week, nearly 7 years ago. Oh my gosh. And so it's really sad because I love this series so much and it's so well done. And it starts out like a slow burn, but then you get hooked on it and it's so good. And this is all we get. How dare it? So I'm going to be excited to read the manga and then start on volume 9 next week. That's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to that very much. But we've got to get there first, and we still have 1 more episode. So yeah, we left off, Hak that we know of, I was debating whether or not Hak knew about Suwon and her meeting up in the last episode, and I don't know if he knows for sure or not. I'm recording this a little bit ahead because I want to give myself time to read the manga and do that. But I'm not sure if he knows. And then at the same time, Jaeha has decided to join them. They're all going on their quest to find, I'm assuming, the Yellow Dragon. That's where they're going next. And so there's lots of like little things being set up, but I'm curious to know what all we're going to touch on this episode. And if we're going to get like a tease of the Yellow Dragon, like what's going to happen. So I don't know, y'all. I'm pretty excited. I'm very excited for next week because it's going to be fun. So far, the manga has been wonderful. Like, it's been very much like the show, so I'm excited to read that with you all. But we haven't got there yet. We need to record this first. So, with that being said, let's start episode 24 of Yona of the Dawn. Man, I can't believe we're at the series finale, but it's not the series finale. It's just the anime finale. We still got the manga to go. So, we're going to start that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Are you kidding me? okay, yeah, how, if I had gotten to the end of this series and I had decided, I've been like, I'm not reading the manga. And that's where it ends? No, you can't. You can't do that. No. Oh my God. Oh my God. From now on is what this episode, we didn't get the OP or the ED. Damn, they just were like, nope. So, okay, I have theories. We met Zeno. What? I have theories about the Sword and Shield, which we'll get to. But, oh my God. What the hell? I'm so fascinated. And I'm so glad that I'm starting the manga next week and we're kicking off where this left off because, so for the record, before we start this, I have had some people ask about the OVAs. And I think I have decided what I want to do. I've had a couple people tell me where the OVAs start. There's 2 OVAs that start. AZ sent me a thing in the comments saying that there's 2 OVAs that are back to back, and they start on chapter 101, page 22, and go through chapters 105. So, and I don't know which volume that is. We'll find out because this is, I think volume 6 is like in the 30s, so it's still a ways away, right? Maybe volume 12. I've heard volume 12 and volume 18 have the OVAs following them, and we're going to start with volume 9 next week, so it won't be anything with that. But I'm not going to immediately watch the OVAs because I want the context of what's going to happen before then, because some of you have said there's spoilers if I just watched it outright, and so I don't want to do that. But what I am going to do is read the manga, and then when I get to the chapters that the OVAs start at, so when I get to chapter 101 and I get to page 22, I'm going to watch the OVAs and then go back and review the manga afterwards. So that's going to be the plan, is that when I'm going to read up to the point where the OVAs start, then watch and react to the OVAs, probably in that same video that I do the manga reactions for that volume, and then talk about them and lead into the manga from there. So that's my plan. I'm pretty excited about that because there's 3 OVAs, 2 that go together and 1 that's by itself. So I'm pretty excited about that, and it'll be cool to build up to it, right? Especially since we got so little time with Zeno, such little screen time with him in this. We got so little time, but he's already such an interesting character, and we know practically nothing about him. He's kind of like double-sided there. It's like, oh, okay. He has like this moment where he gets super serious and then you're like, wait, what? And then he just jumps back to being bubbly himself. I'm like, huh, okay. So we'll talk about Zeno and what we know about him so far. I'm really excited to see him in the manga now and to get more about his character because we just get like little hints of him. And I'm hoping that when I talk about volumes 7 and 8 next week along with these other volumes that we'll get maybe there's some manga stuff that was left out. I'm so curious. So curious. But yeah, lots of things set up in this. Lots of parallels. Lots of things set up. Lots of theories to go from. So let's break this down. Killing the baby deer. Like, Jeha, you couldn't have found a doe. You couldn't have found just like a yearling doe. You found like the baby deer to kill. It's a fawn. I guess if you want to have some veal, sure. I mean, the kebabs, I'm sure, were choice. But well, and he said flying with it was a bit tough. So I guess he picked a baby deer because it was easier to carry this whole way. But I'm like, wait a minute. You carried Yona. You carried Yona, dude. You couldn't carry a baby deer. They weigh about the same. And then, yeah, Yona's saying, your legs are amazing. We should find the yellow dragon in no time. No kidding, right? And the yellow dragon's the last one. Looking into the camera. I want to see his face. Yeah, I don't think he's Jeha's type at all, though. He doesn't seem like he's Jeha type at all. Interesting. And then I like that poor Kija has established himself as the dragon radar in this show. And now that Jeha has joined the crew, Jeha's like trying to steal his thunder a little bit. For the record, I kind of ship Kija and Jeha a lot. I like their dynamic quite a bit. And then poor Sheena is like, I'm just here for the ride. Volume 6 does have a really, really cool panel of if you are a Sheena and Yona shipper, there's a cool panel where he has the mask up and he's like holding her in his arms. It's very cute. And so yeah, Jeha and Kija fighting over who's going to search for the dragons, and Kija's like, this is all I've got, let me have this. And then I love that Hak and Yona are like, just take our time, it's fine. We don't need to rush this. Yeah, and so Yoon's like, I'm gonna let them and I love during this entire scene Yoon's like, I'm gonna make dinner, you start a fire. And this whole time, Kija and Jaeha are just squabbling back and forth, like through this house, this whole scene. I wish I understood Japanese enough because there's no subtitles as to what they're saying. I wish I could speak and understand Japanese where I could know what they're bantering about in the background. But Hak and Yona are just like, we're just gonna ignore them. And then there he is. There he is. And here's the thing about him right off the bat, right? He has the little medallion with the little dragon in it. He has the medallion. So clearly, we don't know anything about where he's come from. We know nothing about where he has come from. We just know that he has all the, like, they're not really rags. They actually look kind of regal in a way. I wondered in this episode if Zeno, because he seems like he's tied, he's very thankful to the heavens and everything, like he's tied to the priesthood. So I wonder if Zeno is tied to like a church, like he came from like an orphanage, if his village is like very religious, like has a lot of connections to the dragon mythology, like the White Dragon's village, like Kija's village, but maybe I don't know. He feels like a mix between Kija and Jaeha in that it seems like he knows about the mythology, he knows about the dragons, he knows about gathering all four of them together, and he knows seemingly what this signifies. So he knows the mythology like Kija and like Jaeha, but he's all kind of about doing whatever he wants, like Jaeha, but he's also kind of like Sina, because Sina just doesn't really, Sina's pretty indifferent about the whole mythology. He's just like, Sina's thing is that Sina never knew about the mythology, so he's just kind of like, He's like, I guess we're all supposed to go fight for Yona. I like Yona, so I'm gonna do it. But Zeno seems like he knows the mythology, like Jaeha and Kija, but he also doesn't care. He's just like, I'm just hungry, I'm just gonna do what I do. Or he seems that way, but he also seems like maybe he can be double-sided where he acts innocent but is actually like super hardcore serious. There was a moment here in this episode where he's like asking Yona what she plans to do that I was like, oh, you're maybe, is Zeno like Gojo from Jujutsu Kaisen where he puts on this aloof front, like he doesn't care, but in reality he's like ridiculously strong. Oh, I have a feeling his character is gonna be super interesting because he has the medallion and everything. I will say this: Yona has her little knife there, and she goes about skinning the deer, and you makes the comment that you don't mind butchering animals anymore, like they've had to do this to survive. And she says, it's still a little hard. Girl, yes, I've had to dress a deer out before. My family has hunted deer before, and I've had to dress one out. It's not fun, nor is it easy. So, girl, I don't... Also, when she's cutting the deer open, all I can think about is if you've ever watched Game of Thrones, Tywin Lannister, when he's in the tent skinning the deer out, that's all I could think of is just Yona in this scene is Tywin Lannister, which is the comparison of all comparisons. So, fun times. But yeah, she's like, when I lived in the castle, I thought nothing of our taking of living creatures' lives. That's such a cool thing for her to say in talking about how when she was living in this life of privilege and taking it all for granted, being like, she's like, I never didn't even think about the people in the castle, like the chefs, the cooks, everything. I didn't even think about them having to go and hunt the food, get it ready, and serve it to me. I just ate the food and took that totally for granted and didn't realize the hard work and effort that was put into giving me a meal. Like, she completely took that for granted while she lived in the castle, and now she's seeing just how hard it was, right? And Yoon's just staring at her like, wow, you've changed a lot over the course of this season. You've become quite perceptive. She's like, turning away would mean ignoring that this fawn was alive. That's interesting too, and that ties to her killing Kumji too, because she's like, she tells the priest later, she's like, I don't feel bad for taking Kumji's life because it needed to happen to save the other people of the city. She's like, so I like the idea. She's not running away from the fact that she's killing this animal to survive. She's saying that if I ran away and ignored it, it would mean I'm ignoring that this thing once had a life and I took it. Like, I wouldn't be taking responsibility for my actions. So she's taking responsibility for killing Kumji. She's taking responsibility for killing the deer to feed her friends. I love that. I love that idea of not running away from something, because that would trying to be acknowledging it doesn't exist. And I love Yoon's just like, okay, wow, Yona, you've grown a lot. And then I love that she prays to it. And at first when her stomach growls, I thought it was her stomach growling, but it's not, it's Zeno's. But she's praying like to the animal, like, you know, it's felt very Tanjiro from Demon Slayer, where he prays to his enemies after they die. It felt very much like that. But no, there's Zeno. There he is. Right there, praying too. Oh my gosh. He's like, I'm impressed, miss. But all living creatures one day return to heaven. Ha. You were expressing your gratitude. Like, thank you for dying so that we could live. And him saying that it's all living creatures. So that phrase alone, all living creatures return to heaven, makes me feel like wherever he's come from, it's a very religious place, because he has the ornament, he has the rag. Even though he looks like he's a vagabond, he's been roaming around, kind of like Iksu. Kind of like Iksu. Interesting. I'm sure it'll forgive you. And then, yeah, Yoon's like, you're drooling. Your stomach's growling. Who are you? He's like, don't worry about that. It's fine. I'm just a passerby, and I'm always drooling. I smelled something yummy. And he says, it just smells bloody. So that too, like, just kind of that, there's like an underlying creepiness in a way to Zeno, where he's like, oh, it smelled really good. And he's like, it smelled like blood. Like, I feel like Zeno has this front where he seems all innocent and childlike and aloof, but then underneath that is this like stone cold badass that I'm like, okay, cool. And he doesn't seem that old. He seems like he's the youngest, which it would be surprising if he was the eldest. And he's like, I'm extraordinarily hungry. And then they make the kebabs and he just starts eating them all. Yep, you can gorge yourselves today. And Hawk's like, yes, we have not had meat in a while. And then he's like, he's like, by the way, who is he? And at the moment, I thought it was interesting that they're like, he's a traveler and he seemed hungry, so Yona was kind enough to ask him to come. And they're like, they turn to Kija and they're like, do you know anything about the yellow dragon, like where he lives or his traits? And I was thinking, they said according to the founding myth, he has a stout body, which just means he's strong. And I love that it looks like Zeno's over here like, haha, no. And then maybe he's covered in hard scales. That's what I thought. And then Hawk's like, maybe he's a big burly man. Nope, neither. And then I like that they've been having this little triage, this discussion. And they're like, is this guy it? Did he just waltz into our camp and we didn't have to go search for him? Is this it? Is this guy it? Okay, cool. Let's find out. Yeah, because this was the easiest. They didn't even have to look. He just showed up. Almost like he's been looking for them. Which would be a cool twist, right? I like the idea that it's interesting. Because you had Kija. Kija was waiting for them to come find him. He was waiting for Yona to come find him. Sheena didn't even know that anyone was looking for him. Wasn't looking for anybody. Was just in one spot and stagnant, but didn't know why. Kija was in one spot stagnant, but knew why. And then Jeha was running away but knew why, but didn't know why. Knew that somebody was following him, but didn't really understand what that meant. He just knew that it was going to take away his freedom, and so he was running away. But Zeno seems like he's running towards them. He's not running away, he's running towards them. So you have two dragons. You have Kija and Sheena, who are both stagnant, but on opposite ends of the spectrum, where Sheena was stagnant because he knew nothing, and Kija was stagnant because he knew everything. So you have those parallels, those dynamics. And then you have Jeha and Zeno, who are both running, but Jeha was running away from the other dragons, and Zeno seems like he was running towards the dragons. So again, different sides of the spectrum. So it's like we got the four poles. We got two opposite ends of the spectrum. You guess you can make an X with it. You have two lines crossing, and then Yona's in the center. That's so freaking cool. I love that. So yeah, because it seems like Zeno just ran towards them. He wanted to find them. Interesting. And so yeah, they finish their conversation here, their gathering, and they're like, yep, I think that this dude eating all of our food is the yellow dragon. This freeloader is actually not a freeloader. Yeah, this kid eating meat over here, so he has to be young if Jeha's calling him a kid, because Jeha's only 25, is the yellow dragon. And they're all like, wait, what? And he's like, what did you call me? And he says, hey. And it's just like he's so aloof that he just looks over and he's like, oh, hey, look, you have the white, the blue, and the green dragons with you. What a coinky dink. I'm just here to finish the set. Yeah. He's like, well, the whole gang's here. Yeah. And they're all just like, excuse me? Yellow dragon. You mean the yellow dragon. Why is he here? Why is he eating meat with us as if it's no big deal? And Jaeha's like, Jaeha's seen him like, And then, yeah, Zeno says, you guys need to relax. Zeno sits like a good boy when he eats. See? That line's curious. Interesting. So I'm so fascinated by where he came from. It seems like it's a religious place. I'm curious. But Zeno's saying, like, I'm doing what I'm supposed to. I'm being polite. Interesting. And he's like, Zeno's my name. And they call it Geno in his, but Zeno. And then Yoon's like, what kind of intro was that? And then, yeah, Kija's like, I sensed the yellow dragon was nearby, but he seemed way too close. And then Jaeha's like, oh my God, me too. And then he's like, you didn't notice we were near? And he's like, I don't care. I'm just wandering around. So yeah, he's just like, it's fine. I'm not concerned with the other dragons. And then Jaeha's like, not concerned? Again, you have opposite ends of the spectrum. You have Jaeha, who is totally concerned about the dragons, didn't want to meet them, didn't want to run into them, was running away. But at the same time, Jaeha didn't want to meet the other dragons, but he didn't want to join them either. That was the big thing. He did not have a concern about the mythology, and he didn't want to join them because he didn't want to be bound to Yona, or what he perceived as the master of the red dragon. And then Zeno seems like he's just like, I just didn't care. He's like, I guess if I ran into y'all, I ran into y'all, but didn't bother me if I didn't. So it's kind of the opposite. And then I love that Hak like pops in and Kija, if you look at his face, Kija's like, why are you so close? And Hak's like, despite all you said, you seemed really concerned with the other dragons. Yes, exactly. And then, what was that? I want to go back there where, yeah, Kija puts his hand on his head. He's like, you're too close to me, get away. And there's like a little word bubble that pops up and says, your claws are stabbing me, white snake. He's like, Zeno, don't you feel anything when you look at her? And he's like, this is Princess Yona. Shazing! I love that. I love that. Look at her. And Zeno's like, she's cute. And he just looks at her and he's like, princess. And I love his eyes sparkle and he's like, master. Oh. And he's like, it's pretty rude of you to say I don't feel anything. She's really cute. My heart is pounding. And Kija's like, we know she's cute, but that's not what we meant. And then he's like, did you not feel that awakening? And there's like the lightning bolt. And then you see like Sheena and Jaeha went through the same thing. Yeah. Saying, it even had me saying, boil me, take me, do as you please. Like being controlled, right? And Hawk's like, what kind of awakening is this? And they're like, is he strong or just really dense? No, I think he's strong. I don't think Zeno's dense. No, I don't think Zeno's dense at all. I think he's super strong. And then, yeah, because he's just playing it off, like being cutesy with Ao. So, yeah, which maybe he's already had the awakening. Maybe he had it like when he first stumbled across all of them and it's already happened and he's like, meh. Or maybe it's different for him. I don't know. He said, would it be difficult? And this is interesting. Yona up until this point, and I think this is what spurns his conversation later, is that Yona up until this point, she's not pressured any of the dragons to join her. She's like, do you want to come hang out with us? Do you want us to join? Do you want to join us? You can, you don't have to. But the way that it's translated here, would it be difficult for you to do us the favor of joining us? Like she's implying a little bit that she wants them to come along, right? She's not saying outright join us, but she's implying like we've been looking for the 4 dragons and asking for their help. So I'd like you to, like she doesn't say like, you can come join us if you want. If not, it's cool. She doesn't, like with Jaeha, she was like, well, you don't have to join us if you don't want to. She just says, I'd like you to. Like there's a little bit more like desperation there, like a little bit of, if you want to come with us, like, it's a little more inclined than with the other dragons. And I think because he's the last one, it's interesting. And I like his response. He's like, sure. No questions asked. And Yona's like, excuse me? He's like, okay. I'm just wandering around. I don't have a destination or anything to do. I'm just wandering a free spirit. And the other dragons are like, really? He's like, above all, the food is great. He's like, as long as you feed me, I'll stay with you. No motivation needed. But I think there is motivation there. He just doesn't want to address it. And he says, showing gratitude for good food is my hobby. And he's like, you mean principle? And then he says, nice to meet you. I look forward to more great meals from tomorrow onward. And Kija's like, unbelievable. He wandered in and joined us the fastest of all. And June's like, maybe he was just starving. I like the Hawk's like, he broke your record, White Snake. True, yeah, he didn't even have to ask. I love it. He's like, nice to meet you too. And then they're like, okay, Zeno. And I love that he's like, Kija tries to like be all, he's, feels challenged by Hawk. He's like, I'll prove my worth. He's like, I am the white dragon, Kija. He's like, I possess the dragon's power in my right hand. If you wish to protect the princess with us, show us your power. And I like this, and I was like, my power? I like that he's like, it's like, I'm not too strong, but my body's really tough. So that's interesting. He says, I'm not really strong, but it's tough. Like, he had like a shield in the OP, right? And then Hawk's like, okay, we'll prove it. And I like that the whole time Hawk is like punching him, he still has the kebab. He's still eating food while he's attacking Zeno. It's absolutely amazing. I can't wait to see this in the manga. It's gonna be so great. He's like, how tough? And then he falls back. He falls back and he's like, oh, you hurt me. And Yoon's like, you're weak. You're a normal person. Are you really the yellow dragon? And then Zeno says, no, there's just something wrong with him. There's something wrong with him. And his arms are ridiculously strong. And then Jaeha's like, Hawk punches me all the time too. And they really do hurt. Like Jaeha's like, I'm constantly at the end of his suffering. And Yoon says, you always seem to be enjoying yourself, Jaeha. Like, I love all the punches here, all the jabs. But Yoon says your body isn't particularly hard. And he's like poking Zeno. He's like, your skin is squishy too. He's like, Zeno's skin is silky smooth. I'm curious why he refers himself into third person. He refers to himself in the third person. He's got some traumatic backstory, doesn't he? Oh my God, I'm sure he does. I'm sure that he's got some traumatic backstory. He's referring to himself in the third person, like damn Dobby off of Harry Potter. It's going to be a sad backstory, I'm sure. I'm not ready for that. No. But I'm wondering if just because his skin is smooth and everything, if that doesn't mean that maybe he is like just impervious to being like stabbed or cut with a sword. Maybe his body resists being cut or wounded by a weapon. Maybe that's why his body's tough. It's not necessarily. But I was commenting that we have, you see the scales in Jaeha's leg and the scales in Kija's hand. But then Sheena doesn't have anything that you'd notice. There's nothing really about Sheena that you would notice out of the ordinary, except his eyes are just piercing. So I'm wondering if that's the same thing with Zeno. Whereas Jaeha and Kija, you can see the dragon influence. With Sheena and Zeno, you can't. That's interesting too. And there's like the Thunder Beast body is way harder. I'd sooner believe he's the yellow dragon. And I love this part where Hawk's like, I've been keeping it a secret, but I'm actually the yellow dragon. And this part, Kija says, if you were a dragon, you'd be the evil dark dragon. I'm like, okay, Zeno's established that Hawk's body's different, and Kija just called him a dark dragon. Yona's the red dragon, so do we have a black dragon? Is Hawk the black dragon? It makes sense of him and the white dragon being opposites. And Hawk's like, the dark dragon. He's like, that sounds kind of cool. Hawk's the fifth dragon, right? And then Kija's saying, aren't you upset? And Zeno's like, why should I be upset? What? He's threatening your position. This episode's amazing. And then Kija's like, remember your pride as a dragon. And Zeno's like, yeah, but I don't know. And Jaeha, of course, puts Kija in his place. He's like, no, Kija. The yellow dragon has his own life to live. Let's not tie him down to the same things. Don't force your values on others. I like that Jeha seems to be like giving Kija a scolding and like giving him a talking to, and Kija's like, I'm really excited to see Kija and Jeha's interactions in this. I'm super excited. And then, yeah, Kija gets all blushy. He's like, but the ancient brotherhood of dragons is finally reunited. Like, this is what Kija's lived his whole life. He's like, thousands of years after the age of myth, we've all been reunited together. The reunion is fulfilled in our generation. He's like, everything that my family has like worked towards is finally coming to fruition. I'm moved to have met you all. And Jeha's like, oh my God, quit crying. I love this. And the four of them are together. We have all four of the legendary dragons. And I love you breaking the fourth wall saying, I'm underwhelmed by how easy it was. To be fair, it's been, 8 volumes and 24 episodes? It's not an easy feat, but all things considered, it did work out very well, right? And Hawk's still eating the same kebab. I like the Zeno smiles at Kija crying. He's like, you simple dragon. And Yona seeing all of them. But yeah, I love his smile. And she compares it later to like a warm ray. Again, we talk about differences with the dragons. Similar, you have Sheena, who is the moonlight. And you have Zeno, who is the sunlight. I love that we have all these comparisons and like polar opposites and how the dragons are like paralleling and opposing each other. Yeah, so Zeno is the sunlight and Sheena is the moonlight. And arguably, I would say Zeno has been the easiest dragon to join. And I would argue that Sheena might have been the hardest dragon to join because it involved him leaving the village and them getting away from the village. Whereas Jeha may have been the most resistant, but I don't think he was the hardest to join. Once he kind of, after the Senjutsu test, he was kind of like, okay, fine, I'll do it. But Sheena, they had to like physically take away from the village. So that's interesting. Huh. And then we get the whole stars and everything. And Yona carrying all that wood. And then, again, we talk about how Zeno seems like one thing, but is not. He, like, does the flip and everything in the moonlight, like a perfect somersault. He crash lands, but still, he had some agility there. And he offers to help carry some of the sticks. And then he struggles with, like, the little part that she gave him. And Kija carries it one hand like it's nothing. He's like, he does what? I can't keep up with that. He says, but the white dragon is kind of cute. I'm like, why are we building up all these dragon pairings? All these dragon pairings, y'all. I was shipping Kija with Jeha, and now we're getting Zeno and Kija on this business. But then he says he's kind of cute. And she's like, oh yeah, Kija's cute. And he's like, they're all cute. And he's like, you're cute too. Like, Zeno trying to... And she just ignores Zeno. She doesn't even recognize the flirting. He's like, you're kind of cute too, Yona. And she's like, I know what the others said. Like, she completely ignores him. Yeah, I don't see Yona and Zeno together romantically, but maybe Zeno does. She's like, I believe you're the yellow dragon. It's hard to explain, but you feel different from ordinary people. And yeah, it's like that warm golden patch of sun. Yep. We've never met before, but I feel cheerful being around you. Oh, I love this. It's like, and I love this. Let me properly introduce myself. I'm Yona. Nice to meet you, Yellow Dragon Zeno. Oh, and he's so happy about it. He's like, yeah. And I love that he goes back to the moonlight and he like prays to it. Oh my goodness. And he just says, yeah, heavens, thank you for this day. Like meeting her. The moon is beautiful tonight. Like he's in love with her. I like that maybe he embraces the love like full on. He's just like, nope, this is how I feel. Which would be interesting because you have Jeha who says the blood dictates everything. You have Sheena who doesn't really know. You have Kija who says that he's totally on board with the blood dictating things. But then you have maybe Zeno that's like, no, it's all me. I think this. I believe this. And the blood's just kind of superfluous. When darkness falls upon the land, the dragon's blood will restore life once more. Okay. In accordance with the ancient pact, when the 4 dragons are gathered, the sword and shield that protect the king will awaken. The red dragon will return at dawn. Okay, and then Yoon's like, we're going back to see Iksu. We're going back to see Iksu. So yeah, so the dragon's blood will restore life to the land. Okay. And they go back to where Yoon was. And I got really nervous for a second, because when they show up to the house and all the stuff is ransacked, I was afraid of this back when they left Iksu, like back in episodes 8 and 9. I was like, are they going to come back and he's going to be dead? I was waiting for it. And when they show him with the blood on his face, I was like, are you kidding me? But he just tripped and fell. He does not have a life alert necklace. Iksu needs one, but he doesn't have one. Oh my gosh. It's almost like he was waiting for them to come back. And then... and the mess! Like, how hard did he fall? Like, Iksu, my dude. And then, oh my god. This is great. He's like, I'll treat your wounds. He's like, I'm sorry. I was so hungry I slipped and fell. Oh god. I'm just amazed, Iksu. I've missed him. I narrowly escaped death. And I love the little nag thing. He's like, you can't be serious, you stupid priest. You wrecked the house, starve, and hurt yourself while living normally? I can't leave you 5 seconds. You're hopeless. Ah, I love it. I hope you die. He's like, thank heavens, you're shouting. You're showing care. And Jaeha's like, you were so upset you cried. Jaeha just loved to rub it in, right? Mm-hmm. And I love that Yoon's like, I didn't cry. I'm not upset. And so then Keisha, it's amazing me that the dragons are meeting Iksu for the first time. Like the priest, Iksu is just now meeting the dragons. And I like that Keisha's just like, let's get down to business. Priest, please forgive our sudden visit, but we need to know. Yeah, it's an honor to meet you. Yeah, of course he would. And then Iksu's like, no, I'm honored to meet you. Aw, and I love that he's like, the group has grown. Yeah, because it was just Hak and Yona and Yoon. He's like, and you look like you've experienced many things, Yona. Aw. And so Yoon's like, we did the goal. We collected all 4 dragons. What do we do? What are the sword and shield that protect the king? Is Yona the king? Or is the current king Suwon? And he says, we'll need some time before the sword and shield appear. Okay. When the time comes, you'll know. Oof. So it isn't time yet. Okay. Then what should we do now? And then, yeah, so Zeno's going to bring in the truth bomb here. So they ask who the sword and shield is, and I'm going to shed my theories on it later in a little bit because Hawk's going to say something that I'm like, aha. But Zeno's like, okay, this sword and shield question is interesting, but we're not asking the important questions. We're just asking like stuff that's going to happen way on down the road. And this is where he gets serious. And I'm like, wait, what? And as he's petting Ao, he's like, Miss, what do you want to do with the 4 dragons? What do you want us to do? And he's like, you 2 were chased from the castle. And I know you need fighters to survive, right? But what about after that? Like we've survived, so what do we do now? He's like, are you gonna keep running away from the castle and running away from Suwon's men? No. So then will you defeat Suwon, who stole the throne, and retake the castle from him? Yeah, and it's like, is that the goal? And Yona's like, oh. And Yoon speaks very pragmatically. He's like, we can't attack the castle. There's only 7 of us. He's like, there's no way. Even with 4 dragons, these numbers aren't enough. And then Zeno gets serious and he's like, no, whether we can or not doesn't matter. I'm asking if it's what you want to do. He's like, whether or not it logistically makes sense, it's like, is that the end goal? Is the end goal that we take back the castle and kill Suwon? Is that the end goal of all this? Besides, it isn't impossible to take a single castle with the dragon's true strength. That line where he gets all super serious, that's where I'm like, he knows the mythology, and wherever he is from, they have told him about the past with King Hiryu and what happened with the previous dragons. Like the fact that he's like, oh no, 4 dragons is enough to overthrow a kingdom. Oh my god! I'm like, I'm so, like, Serious Zeno is interesting. And then he's like, oh, I'm not that strong though. He instantly cuts from serious mode back to nonchalant. Yeah. And they're like, what? He's like, sorry, I know I'm new. He's like, I'm just the new guy. I'm not telling you to do that. He's like, I'm not telling you to go raid the kingdom and kill the king and take over the castle. I'm just asking if that's what you want to do, if that's a possibility. I'm just wondering what the plan is. He's like, I'm just a wandering traveler. I've just joined your group willy-nilly. I want to know what I'm in for. Yeah. Following you was my choice. You're free to come up with your own plan. And Yona's like, yeah, no. And he's like, anyway, I'm hungry. So yeah, but I love it. But yeah, Zeno brings up the idea that there needs to be a plan. We've got all 4 of us together. What's the purpose now? What's the point of having all 4 of us together if we're not going to do anything? And I love this moment where as they're wandering away, the priest is in the shadows. Iksu is in the shadows, silent, like, Like, I feel like Iksu and Zeno are on a similar wavelength somehow. That Iksu knows something that, and he's seeing that Zeno brought it up. And I love that Hak and Jeha are in front of Yona as she's thinking about this. Right? And so then, yeah, they're that. I wasn't expecting Zeno to go after Yona like that. He's difficult to understand. Yeah, it's hard to read Zeno right now because he's very mysterious and he acts aloof, but then he has those moments like what he just did when he was speaking truth bombs to Yona. It's like, But I like that we had this little mini powwow. And I like that Sheena's just holding out his hands like this. And Hawk the whole time is just up against the tree thinking, contemplating. Yeah. And I like he has his eyes closed just thinking. And Ki just like, it was only recently that the princess lost her father. She can barely protect herself. So yeah, going to the castle is not going to work. It's too heavy of a question. And then Jeha complicates it and says, well, she isn't simply trying to avenge her father. So she sees Suwon as a traitor, but the rest of the kingdom may not. So Jeha's complicating the matter. Jeha's like, yeah, but Yona, she may see Suwon as a traitor, but she knows the rest of the kingdom probably does not because he's been doing well, by trying to help the kingdom. So if they go and attack now, not only is it 7 against an army, but the rest of the kingdom may not approve. So if she stages a coup and tries to take Suwon over now while he's trying to help the kingdom, they may hate her just like they did supposedly King Il. So she won't be in any better of a boat. And then Jeha's like, he adds to it, and they all agree, and he says retaking the throne means taking responsibility for the entire kingdom. And that's ill-advised for a 16-year-old girl. Like just a 16-year-old girl, a kid, that's not advisable, right? Especially someone, she'll seem vulnerable and people will try to either hurt her or take advantage of her. And he's like, that's not going to work. And Kija's like, I agree. And then Kija's like, Hawk, you know the king. What is he like? And Hawk's like, hard to say. Don't want to talk about it. Yeah. And Kija's like, he still refuses to speak about Suwon. And Jeha's like, have you noticed? Whenever you say that name, Hawk's face darkens. And then Kija says he must really hate him. But no. Jeha's like, no, that's not it at all. He's like, he must have been a very dear friend. Yeah. So the thing of it is, Hawk doesn't hate Suwon. Him and Yona don't hate Suwon. They've grown up their entire lives loving him, but they just feel betrayed by him, and they don't understand why he has pushed them away. They feel hurt by Suwon. They're like, we don't know why you've turned us away. Why don't you want us to help you? Why are you doing the things that you're doing? Why can't we be a part of your life anymore? Like, we love you. Why can't we be a part of your life? Like, that's what Hawk is mad about. Because Hawk doesn't say anything bad about Suwon. He's just mad at him because of how he hurt Yona. Yeah. And then Iksu coming up to talk to Yona and them having this conversation. And he's like, oh, you're thinking about what Zeno said, right? Mm-hmm. He's like, I see no doubt in your face. And that, God, this scene. Oh my gosh, there's so many scenes in this episode. But she's like, for the first time, I spoke with people outside the castle. I walked myself ragged, carrying the weapons my father had forbidden. Like doing everything she'd been taught against her entire life, right? That my father had forbidden. I heard their bitterness towards the reality that hadn't changed since my father's rule. Like her dad wanted to create this peaceful kingdom. It was mortifying. My father loved peace above all, but his kingdom did not reflect that. Yeah, and seeing that the more I learned, the more powerless I was. God. She's like, I just realized just how deep this all ran and how little I was doing. And just what could I do, right? So, man, lots of Attack on Titan tie-ins. Just saying. You should go watch that too. But when I reached out in desperation, someone reached back. So that's the thing. She's like, I wasn't strong to pull myself up, so others pushed me from behind. She's like, I thought I was powerless and I could do nothing. But then I realized that I wasn't alone. There were other people that had felt powerless as well, but they helped me and pushed me forward, and I was able to help them because of it. So it was like just reciprocating it, right? Yeah. And she just montages everybody in this, Gigan, everyone, and saying, there are many in this kingdom I want to protect. I don't regret shooting Kumji, Lord of Awa. And I love this. Since then, I've been thinking there must be other cities in the Coca Kingdom like Awa. I love this like Robin Hood vibe that she's like, I love that she's coming to terms with the fact she's like, I can't just go back and retake the kingdom. That's not going to help them. The people of this kingdom aren't going to be helped by me staging a coup and retaking the kingdom from Suwon. That's not going to solve the problem, right? She's like, I can do things behind the scenes with these dragons. Like, there's only 7 of us. We're not an army. We can covertly move around like Robin Hood and his merry men. We can covertly move around and do some good without opposing Suwon outwardly, right? Without directly attacking him. Yeah. She says, so I will gaze across the kingdom and help those in distress. And we're going to tie back to Sword and Shield with this. We're going to tie to it. Father, forgive me. I will take up weapons to protect your kingdom. I love this. Before returning to the castle, there's something I must do. And that's what sparks her. She's like, oh my God, that's what Suwon said, right? She's like, before returning to the castle, I have to do this. And Suwon said, there's something I must do. And she's just seeing the parallels between her and Suwon. She's like, we have to. And so then that ties to the fact of Suwon killing King Il. Like, we don't know what their final conversation was. But Suwon being like, forgive me, King Il, but I have to kill you to save this kingdom. And Yona's like, forgive me, father, but I have to go against you to save this kingdom too. It's like, there's tie-ins together, right? And then Iksu, I think you know this, so I'll tell you. She's like, I bet you probably know this, so I'm going to go ahead and say it. In Awa, I saw Suwon. And Hawk's listening the whole time. He hears it. I thought I hated him, that I could never forgive him, but I couldn't draw a sword. Couldn't attack him. And then when she's crying, that's such a sad moment. And he says, no matter how foolish or incomprehensible, some love cannot be discarded. He's like, you love him, so no matter what he's done, he's like, you can't just not forgive him. You may try to stop your heart, unable to forgive yourself. But there will be times when you lose hope as your heart is moved again. Yep. King Hiryu said so himself. No, I'm human now. And though the humans may hate and betray me, I cannot help but love them. And that's just like that's the whole thing with Suwon. Even though Suwon betrayed her and Hawk, they can't help but love him. It's like both her and Hawk, they can't help but love him even if he's betrayed them. It's very much tied to that. Oh my gosh. That's why I love people. He says, that's why I love people. Because there's still that love there. No matter what happens, there's still love in the end. And Hawk seeing it too. Oh my god! Ah, it's so good! And the primary colors, you have Iksu, and between Yona and Hak, just like Suwon. We're gonna talk about this in a second. I'm building it up. I want to come back to what Hak says in here. Okay, and so in the sleeping arrangements, Jaeha is like sitting up, which is weird. Jaeha is sleeping, sitting up. Kija is like me. I'm a side sleeper, so Kija is like a side sleeper like I am. Shinha is, of course, like sleeping on his back. And Zeno is just all over the place, right? And so then we have Yona practicing with the little knife. Like, getting pretty good, practicing the moves in the rain, right? And then I love this where she goes to strike and Hak takes the little knife and parries. Ah! Yes! Are you practicing with the sword? And then she thinks that he's going to get mad at her. And he's not mad at her. He says, you'll catch a cold. Let's go into this romantic cave and hide out. Where you can cuddle next to me. Which ends up happening. Yeah. And then I like that Yona asks if he's mad. And Hak's like, no, I'm not mad. And he gives her his little coat. He's like, I'm not mad. No. I love that he puts his forehead up next to hers. He's like, I'm just a little scared. And she says, because using a sword could put me in danger? And no, that's not it. He's like, I'm afraid of seeing you in danger. She says, I'm afraid of seeing you in danger too. That's why I won't use you as a shield. Okay, so here's the deal. That's why I won't use you as a shield. Okay, so theory time. I think that Yona is the red dragon, right? And she has her 4 dragons. The sword and the shield is Hak and Suwon. That's the sword and the shield. But she says, I won't use you as a shield. No, Hak is the sword. Hak wants her to struggle. He wants her to get better. And he wants her to fight, right? It's so interesting because we had back in the last episode, Suwon, she had the flashback of Suwon being like, oh, I'll hold your hand like your mother and I'll dry your tears and I'll be here for you. I'll shield you, right? And Suwon is technically when he shielded her, he held her close to him and shielded her from Judo and them, right? From them finding him. And technically, Suwon being king right now, the stuff he has to do, Suwon being king right now is shielding her in a sense while she's going about doing all this because Suwon he told the guards to stop looking for her and Hak because he said they were already dead. And when even before he thought they were dead, he told Suwon to stop. Suwon told the guards to stop looking for them. He's like, no, they're probably dead. Just leave them alone. Like, he's been shielding her and Hak this whole time. So I think Suwon in this metaphor, he's the shield. He's going to shield her and let her do what she needs to do. And Hak is the sword that's going to help her to fight. So, and he said, use me as a weapon. Use me as a tool. Use me as a weapon. I'm like, I don't know. And I could be off, but I think that Hak, because Iksu's like, they've not fully revealed themselves yet. Because Hak still is coming to terms with how he feels about Yona and what he wants Yona to do. And he's starting to realize he wants to see her fight. He wants to see her succeed. He wants to see her move forward. So that's slowly being revealed. And I think that, and I could be totally wrong. It could be 2 totally random people. But I think that Hak is the sword and Suwon is the shield. And it makes sense. It's the 3 of them together. It's the king with his sword and shield on each side of them. It's Yona, and she's going to have Suwon and Hak on either side of her, protecting her and helping her to fight. And then she also has the 4 dragons. That's what I'm calling, but I could be wrong. But when she says, I won't use you as a shield, I was like, oh, he could be the sword. Okay. But she says, on our way here yesterday. And then Jaeha is bound and determined to get Hak to confess to her. Jaeha is bound and determined to get Hak to confess. Because this whole conversation where Jaeha is like, oh, you want me to teach you how to use a sword? Because Jaeha and Hak are very similar. They're very similar characters in this. And she's like, Hak told me he wouldn't do it. He said a bow was one thing, but a sword was too dangerous. And that was a while back. And Jaeha's like, I understand. If I were Hak, I would do everything I could to shield you from danger. Uh-huh. And she's like, but... He's like, he says, I like the way you struggle to become stronger. But that's how Hak feels like. I feel like Jaeha is just taking his lines from him. That's how Hak feels. He's like, that's why I came with you. Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's like, I want you more than any other to be safe and happy. That's probably what Hak thinks. Which is not wrong. And she's like, I can't. She says, you're right. In some ways that... and he says, in some ways that restricts you. Yeah, because just protecting her all the time and shielding her from danger, that's just keeping her from growing. And Jaeha's like, maybe he does want to keep you tied up. And she's thinking of back in that conversation, hidden away where other men can't see you. But Hak proves him wrong. And he's like, oh, she's like, can't see me. Who are you talking about? And he's like, oh... about the man who wants to keep you to himself. And then they're like, hurry up. Yeah, Jaeha thinks one thing about Hak, or he seems to think one thing about Hak, but I think Jaeha he wants to push Hak to the point where Yona is questioning him and gets him to confess. Jaeha knows. Jaeha knows Hak loves her. And I feel like Jaeha's like, if I just poke Yona in this direction far enough, she's eventually going to nag at Hak and Hak's going to confess. I could be wrong. And then I just love these, like, I'm going to kill that droopy-eyed bastard. He's like, how dare he? Mm-hmm. And I love it. Yona's like, what? He says, Princess, you shouldn't listen to him. But then Yona's like, he's lying. I know that. I don't understand why you'd want to hide me from people. And Hak's like, what? Yona's like, and he's like, yeah, it's a lie. It's the opposite is true. I wish I could show you to Moondog and King Il. He's like, I want to show you off. He wants to do the thing. He's like, to those idiots who chased you from the castle. He's like, to everyone that thought, to the people of Coca Kingdom who thought you were weak and that you couldn't defend yourself. He's like, I want to show her off. And oh, the God, these words, Hak husbando. Where he's like, look, this is Princess Yona. She cut her hair and took up a sword. She works harder than anyone to support this kingdom. Princess Yona is here, I'd tell them. And she's just like, starts crying like, no. And she says, what's this? You don't sound like yourself. And it's like, no, that is him. He's been putting on this front of being a troll around you because he doesn't want to show his desires, that he likes you. And she's like, this doesn't sound like you. And he's like, And he's like, you're right. He's like, forget I said it. And then she's like, nope, too late. I'm never forgetting that you're saying it. Oh my God. And then she says, I'm sorry, Hak. Once the rain stops, I'm taking up the sword again. I don't know why she said, I'm sorry, Hak. Because he just said that he wants to help her. He says the rain stopped. And then, yep, falls asleep on his shoulder. God, and this kiss, the forehead kiss. Yep. That's going to be the thumbnail. How could that not be the thumbnail? Come on. As much as I want to make Zeno the thumbnail, no. It's going to be that. And so then we get this after credit scene. Although Zeno could be the thumbnail. He could be. I didn't think about that. I might pull Patreon on that one. There's some good shots of Zeno in this too. But yeah, then we get the ending here. And so we have Moondog with the new Wind Tribe leader. Okay, which is the kid. Yep, this kid that's Hak's protege. He's still young, so I gotta be here to help him. There are still things this old fart has to teach him. So that y'all don't corrupt him. Yep. And then, yeah, we're counting on you, new leader of the Wind Tribe. Yep, so we don't know his name yet. I feel like maybe we did know his name, but not fully. And then Moondog's like, good work in the Earthlands, huh? And so, what's your next step? And Suwon's like, see for yourself, along with the gods in heaven. Suwon's like, I'm not giving away anything. He's like, oh my gosh, I love it. I have not accomplished anything yet. I cannot stop now. Oh my gosh. I must keep this kingdom alive. So yeah, so I don't know. Again, that's the whole shield thing. I don't know if Suwon is keeping the kingdom alive to help Yona. To help Yona with her cause. I'm so curious, but I just feel like that whole sword and shield thing. It just feels like it's Hak and Suwon being the sword and shield to Yona. I don't know. And then she says, I'm still weak. But she has that damn giant hairpin. She's like, I'm still weak, but I don't want to pretend I don't see what's happening around me. She's like, I gotta take a stand, right? And then we tie back to the beginning. I won't let anyone hurt the kingdom and people my father loved. So she's like, my father loved these people, but he wasn't able to protect them. He wasn't able to serve them properly, but I'm going to do all I can to do what he could not. Oh my gosh, I love it. And then we tie back to the beginning. We just tie back to where she asks everyone to lend their strength. And Shino's like, I'll do it. Kija's like, I'll do it. And Yoon's like, well, leave it to this handsome genius. And then I love that Jaeha does the hair flip again, like, as you wish, Yona. And then Zeno's like, me too. And then Hak saying, as you wish. Like, damn Wesley from Princess Bride. I just get the Princess Bride vibes with him and Yona. And she's like, let's go. And then we cut back to where we were in episode 1. I'm amazed that we got there. I can't believe we got back to this moment. Which she shot the arrow back in episode 1 just like she did against Kumji, so shouldn't be surprised. And then they end it with the whole thank you for the support at the end. Ugh. Oh my god, Yona. So yeah. That's the season finale. Lots of things being set up. The thing with the sword and shield. Zeno, we don't have his backstory yet, but he's in the crew now. Yona's basically going to be there. Going to be like this Robin Hood trope, going around doing good for the kingdom, but not taking over the kingdom, working from the shadows, behind the scenes, while Suwon does whatever he's trying to do right now. I love this series, for the record. I love it. I get so frustrated when people are like, oh, it's a shoujo. And I'm like, no, this is deep shit. And I love it. It's so good. It's thematically wonderful. Yona is amazing. The characters are good. They're all fleshed out. There's mystery. There's intrigue. There's mythology. There's symbolism. There's all the parallels and things with the characters. It's so good. And the story's good. I think people diss it because they think when it's a shoujo, they're like, oh, it's just going to be like a reverse harem and she's going to be like in love with all these dragons. No, I mean, they all love each other, but it's not like that, right? It's so good. I'm like, Banana Fish is one of my favorite anime. This is now one of my favorite anime. And they're both shoujos. So it's like, what do you know? But yeah, I'm super excited to get into the manga. So before I start volume 9, obviously I need to read volume 7 and 8. So I'm going to do that this week. And then next week we will start with volume 9, looking into that series and seeing what all's happening there. So I'm so excited. But yeah, so in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. I'm excited to hear your comments down below about this finale. No manga spoilers, obviously. At this point, we can talk about anime all we want. But no manga spoilers, no OVA spoilers. I'm going to get there. But yeah, next week, we'll recap volumes 1 through 8 and then start on volume 9. So I'm excited, y'all. I hope y'all are too. But I'll see y'all next week with more Yona of the Dawn. Bye.